Don in London, hello. May 22nd. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. My behaviour, equally addictive around people, places and things. Trying to be perfect. Be in the right place, with the right people, with the right things. All the right toys of life. And it was a pretty superficial life. It was all about being able to look right rather than feel right. Always striving to fit in and overcome feelings of not being good enough. So I don't know that I've understood the words progress, not perfection. Didn't actually enter into my head or my vocabulary. So these days I try to stay sober one day at a time. One day program for recovery, achievable on a daily basis. If I make it any longer and say for the rest of my life I will be sober, I'm saying something which is impossible to predict. The nature of addiction is that relapse is always just an arm's length away for me. So I prefer to do what I can to keep sober. So what's helped me along the way? Family, friends, community, careers ending, and new beginnings, and learning to live life as it is rather than what I thought it ought to be all about. And one thing which helped me more than anything was the ability to say no to things which I didn't feel like doing, because it's okay to say no. As Gandhi said, an emphatic no is better than a half-hearted yes. That's not quite what he said, but that's the abbreviated version. So on a daily basis, living life, the help from friends, family, community, medical people, who kept me alive long enough to find the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm very lucky to be in AA. I'm a part of something which is simply about sobriety and nothing else. Everyone who goes to AA has their own personal outlook, unique and authentic to them, and their life experience has shaped those outlooks. So AA won't change your outlook, only you can change your outlook. And if we are sober on a daily basis, the absolute key to why the fellowship works for me is it's simply about sobriety. It's not about anything else. It's not about taking on the beliefs or affiliations of other people. It's simply there to be sober. And we hear everything about other people's affiliations and how their lives are working, and it's all done under the banner of anonymity in the rooms or meetings or groups of AA. We stick to anonymity because it's a sanctuary to find out who we are today and who we might be becoming as life unfolds. So we all have aims, objectives, ideas about how life may turn out, but we concentrate in fellowship on just simply being sober so the rest of life can work. And that way we can find the truth about who we are, we learn how to love and be loved back without conditions, and we keep on learning the wisdom of life from other people and then putting into practice what will work for us. So how does AA work? Well, on this handy little card, which is available in any AA meeting, it has the AA preamble shared at the beginning to remind us of what it's all about. And I do it here, and then I share some of the readings which I feel help me on a daily basis. And May is all about one of the steps in the 12-step program for me, step 5, which, after having written a life story, points out where things worked well and where things went awry, and highlighted where I got angry, resentful, or my less helpful personality traits put me in situations which were not very healthy, and sometimes they are called defects of character. But having done a life story, it's then about sharing it with another person and admitting to ourselves and to God, if we have a belief in God, the exact nature of the wrongs that happened along the way and our part in it. And the whole of the AA program is all about our part in it, how to do a self-appraisal of what happened and what we can do today. It's not about appraising and judging other people. That will lead us back to anger and resentment far quicker than anything I know. So the danger is we learn how to appraise ourselves. At the same time, we can exercise very good judgments about other people based on what we've done. But they're unhelpful, so we have to concentrate only on what works for us, not telling other people what to do. And that applies within the fellowship as well. Nobody is there to tell you what to do. There are no gurus, but there are people with wisdom of life. So if they have the wisdom of life, better to, I suppose, plug into it and see what we can learn, which can be put into practice in our own lives. So here is the AA preamble and then some other readings. And today I'm going to a 4th birthday party, 4 years sober birthday party for a very kind and loving person who I love, and that's great news. Love without conditions, and it's good to celebrate with lots of other people, hopefully. 4 years sober. What an achievement, but only done one day at a time. So here is the AA preamble, and I'm just going to take a quick sip of coffee so I don't get dry. Here we go. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. And that's what we do. We try and help each other solve our common problem around being sober, how to be sober. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. So the only requirement for coming to AA is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And in the fellowship we go to find out how to be sober and learn from others. And one thing I do know about recovery, like anything else, if we become dependent on something like I did, alcohol, or dependent on people, places and things, I'm always trying to fit in, do what I think is right rather than what I feel is right. So in AA we lean on the many. We don't actually single out one single person to help us through into sobriety. We may have a sponsor from time to time, or we may have a sponsor all the time, and there is more than one sponsor in my life, depending on my issues, problems, practicalities, abilities to find out information which might help me. There are so many people I know now, so it's like a vast networking system, a bit like what you see on the internet these days with Facebook and other social media. So it's about leaning on the many and not trying to find one person who's going to solve our problems, because as soon as we start to do that, if we are totally reliant on another person and we're having big issues, we tend to drag them down into our problems too and exhaust them and then put them at risk of relapse, just like we might be. So it's an interconnected fellowship where we try our very level best to stick to sobriety and those 12 steps help us in any one day. So step 1, powers over alcohol, life was unmanageable. Step 2, restored to sanity by higher power. For me that was simply AA, fellowship and the love of other people in my life. Step 3, let go, let good things happen. Let go of trying to be right and start letting in the world. So as I let go my self-will, I'm trying to make it on my own. Letting people in gives me a greater perspective. Step 4, the life story, all about our assets and liabilities, what worked and what didn't, where our personality traits led us back to drink over and over again, or addictive behaviour around people, relying on one or not relying on one, spreading our I suppose, casting our net wide, trying to find out what could help us, fix us from the outside, when indeed the job was an inside job, trying to find out what made us tick. And that's what we do in fellowship. So, as I say, you'll find so many people with so many different ideas and outlooks. We don't have to adopt them, but they will have wisdom which is useful to us. And then it was written in a book like this, Daily Reflections. And Daily Reflections in May is all about step 5. But it says here on May 22nd, step 1, we, the first word of the first step. When I was drinking, all I could ever think about was I, or me. Such painful obsession of self, such soul sickness, such spiritual selfishness, bound me to the bottle for more than half my life. The journey to find God and to do His will, one day at a time, began with the first word of the first step, we. There was the power in numbers, there was the strength in numbers, there was safety in numbers, and for an alcoholic like me, there was life in numbers. If I had tried to recover alone, I probably would have died. With God and another alcoholic, I have divine purpose in my life. I have become a channel for God's healing love. And for me, the healing love comes through being sober, and then being a part of life, not thinking I'm bigger or better than anybody else. But it's a program which really, or rather it's a fellowship which relies on the greater number to help one person. So when we go to meetings, we hear the experience, strength and hope of many. Some of it will contain faith, belief, affiliations to other things. But what we're looking for is the message about how that person has stayed sober, is either enjoying life or is absolutely challenged to whatever degree you can possibly imagine, but they're still sober. And where is the experience in that? What has helped them stay and stick with the program? And going to a 4 years birthday party, a sober birthday party, seeing this person change so fundamentally back to the person they were at the start of their lives, if you like, open to new ideas, open to the challenges that the world has. But not only that, all those years of drinking provided much experience, life experience of what worked and what didn't work. So building on what worked and discarding and that letting in room for other things to happen. And I like that. And I'll see people who are decades sober today and people who are fairly new to being sober today, because it's good to go and celebrate something which is absolutely fantastic. 4 years, one day at a time. So the program really is that, simply one day. I was just looking in this book, As Bill Sees It, which is a daily reflections, and there are so many things which are so important to me. And this one says on page 156, perception of humility. An improved perception of humility starts a revolutionary change in our outlook. Our eyes begin to open to immense values which have come straight out of painful ego puncturing. And that's what the life story does. It brings us back down to earth. So rather than blaming the world, we start to actually understand what our part in things were, and how we contributed to our drinking days, and how they probably helped us survive some very bad knocks, but then we became dependent and totally addicted to the substance or the behaviours. Just wait for that truck to go past. Until now, our lives have been largely devoted to running from pain and problems. Escape via the bottle was always our solution. Then in AA we looked and listened. Everywhere we saw failure and misery transformed by humility into priceless assets. So once we get over ourselves and get over the fact that life has dealt us some really hard blows, and some self-inflicted ones too, because don't forget, the trouble with addiction is we are quite ignorant of what is going on often. We're not that self-aware. Every time something goes wrong and we take the edge off with a drink, we don't realise where it's headed, to dependence and then addiction. To those who have made progress in AA, Humility amounts to a clear recognition of what and who we really are, followed by a sincere attempt to become what we could be. And we don't know what we could be, because every day we're more enlightened in some way. So the more we let go of things which are not good for us, the more room for growth we have. And the humility to learn. So humility is not about being humble in the sense of that bowing and scraping to another person. It's far from it. It's the very opposite of that. It's about being free to make good choices on a daily basis, free to find our outlook, and free to be sober, and not to take the edge off with a drink. So we really, really do live in reality, where the spiritual connection is. Everything is spiritual in the moment of now, and it's about our awareness and how we understand it. So if we can see the truth, the love and the wisdom around us in any one moment, we have access to good understandings and wisdom which will help us. And on the following page, page 157, maybe I won't do that one. Yes. I'm going to move it to 262. That's what I was wondering about myself. Page 262, individual responsibilities. Let us emphasize that our reluctance to fight one another or anybody else is not counted as some special virtue which entitles us AAs to feel superior to other people, nor does this reluctance mean that the members of AA are going to back away from their individual responsibilities as citizens. Here they should feel free to act as they see right upon the public issues of our times. But when it comes to AA as a whole, that's quite a different matter. As a group, we do not enter into public controversy, because we are sure that our society will perish if we do. And that's one of the most important parts for me. We don't give up our affiliations to other beliefs, faiths, causes, whatever it is we're part of, unless we feel, as time goes by, that some of those may not be right for us. And that's just an ordinary, normal human way of living. What we say about fellowship is not affiliated or part of any other cult, organisation, institution or whatever. But if you make it so, then it won't serve you very well. Because the fellowship works simply because it's not affiliated to anything and has one issue, sobriety. So whilst everybody inside may be a hotbed of all sorts of emotions around life and the personal issues that we face, which are quite different often, because we are unique, authentic people on our own journey in real time. Unity, service and recovery around sobriety keep the fellowship safe. So inside, anonymity to find out who we are, sanctuary, and then we live our lives outside fellowship as we choose, free. And that's wonderful. But the thing is, if we only go there for sobriety, we cannot blame it when something else is going wrong in our lives. And that's the big danger always. If we make something so special in a way which involves other people, where we are totally reliant on their outlook to help us keep sober, we're not really sober at all. We're still dependent on something or other. Another human being, a place, a thing, something, behaviour. So the real truth of sobriety is freedom to choose, with a level head, what to do next. So rather than trying to work out what we ought to be, or should be, or could be, we learn to live life and find out what we are and how we feel about it. And do we want to make some changes, or are we on a steady course which is working for us? That's how fellowship works. So be under no illusion. There's no fantastical thing or something other than the special nature of the relationship between people and whatever their higher power is, to do good, to do the next right thing. So I'm so grateful. And it's odd, isn't it? You know, if we stand in a choir of people and sing, and I can't sing too well, I feel better. If I sit in a room of people with sobriety on their minds, and every problem under the sun, making good, I feel the connection and fellowship, true kinship with each and every one. So it's not about me being in charge anymore, of me or anything. It's about making the right choices, to be with, included, part of, all those good things. And that's why we feel good. That's where the human emotion works for us. Enough. So I will share the Serenity Prayer at the end of these videos, even when there are big trucks going around, even on a Sunday morning, May 22nd. And a birthday party later. Wonderful. It's really good to be part of life again, simply one day at a time. The Serenity Prayer works at any time, day or night, when I don't know what to do next, or life is tough. It reminds me what I can do and what I can't do. So, to God, or in good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot do, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, is just for today. DonInLondon, hello. It's May 22nd, 2009, coming up to the bank holiday weekend. So 3 days off for many people, but many people also work. Anyway, for me, my video is all about recovery from addiction to substance or behaviour. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect, but never so. And always striving for something that maybe you wanted in me, and not really understanding that I didn't know what you wanted. But if I sure worked hard at it, you'd reward me in some way. That is, with your presence and your friendship and your love. But it don't really work like that, does it? And when we don't have a true identity which we can say is our own, where we have our choices made in a reasonable way, often we find ways of finding solace. And solace for me was in drink, and sadness as well. So I use drink to be happy, I use drink to be unhappy, or sad, or isolated, or beyond the pale, really, because I couldn't stop. And that was the final few months or years of my drinking. I couldn't stop, no off switch, and no way of turning back. I crossed that line, wherever it is, and it was very, very difficult. So, why do I do these videos? Really just to share my experience, strength and hope on a daily basis of where I can live and the choices I can make. And the reason why I'm able to make any choice at all is by the help of professional, community, society and family and the fellowship of AA. And I think on a daily basis I maintain my sobriety because I am a part of the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I cannot speak for it because it's full of unique, authentic people who can speak for themselves. And so there are no spokespersons for AA, but I can sure share my message of experience, strength and hope about how AA helps me. And there is a 12-step action program for individuals, that is 12 steps of action to change our attitudes and behaviour, and 12 traditions which hold the fellowship together. So on the one hand, action for me around open, honest and willing to make the best of this day, and then also the fellowship, unity, service and recovery, to give something back and hopefully help others find sobriety as well. So the fellowship of AA, I go to meetings each and every day if I can, and rarely miss, simply because it's a good way of keeping me calibrated and finding out what normal living is all about. My normal living, quite extraordinary to me, and maybe just joining in where everybody else is on the same page. So at meetings we share this preamble at the beginning so people know why they're there, slow us down into the moment of now and see what we can do. So here is the preamble, shared at every meeting. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And in that last sentence, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. It's really what it's about, because once we've got it, we need to give it away. Or we tend to be selfish, self-obsessed, and self-run riot, I suspect, because we need to do something to give it back. Or we just are very selfish people, and the whole fellowship would fall apart in no time at all. So I'm glad I'm in the fellowship, and there are many who are for it and many against it. And for those who are against it, I really hope that they have an alternative which is working for them. And AA doesn't have to be the only way. I say this from time to time. Although I found that it's worked for me, I haven't found any substitute. Not that I'm looking for one either, because I can remain unique, authentic on my journey of life. And now I know I've got a life. It's my life. It might not be interesting to anybody else, but that's not the point. The point is, it's interesting to me. And I don't know who said it, but somebody attributed it to Freud. I don't know, it's probably something mankind's thought about a lot. 3 elements of life are really important. To be able to love, to be loved, and have something useful to do. So this is part of my usefulness, to me and others, I hope. In the programme, 12 Steps, 12 Months, I'm trying to cover the steps as best I can. And that's not to be gushing and share my innermost secrets here. It's just to give you an outline of how the steps work. And step 5 for May is all about sharing our fearless moral inventory of our assets and liabilities with another human being and with our God, the one you understand, of your understanding, not mine. My God is God works through people, God is truth, and God is linked to my good conscience, and that'll do me for now. And also that higher power thing, the AA group for me. And I guess the only definition of God which works for me is I cannot define God, because to define God means I know as much as God might know. So I'm not it, and that's the most important part. I'm just the same as everybody else, finding out about life and how it can work. But step 5 actually reads, admitted to God, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 12 steps deflate ego. Step 5 is difficult but necessary to sobriety and peace of mind. Confession is an ancient discipline. Without fearless admission of defects, few could stay sober. What do we receive from step 5? Beginning of true kinship with man and God. Lose sense of isolation, receive forgiveness and give it, learn humility, gain honesty and realism about ourselves, necessity for complete honesty, danger of rationalization, how to choose the person in whom we confide. Results are tranquility and consciousness of God, oneness with God, and God and man, and prepares us for following steps, which is the rest of the 12-step program. From the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Yeah, I need my mental joggers, if you like. I can recite the 12 steps for what they mean to me, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is how it works in another person's life as well. So to be on the path of honesty, openness and willingness to change on a daily basis, to meet life challenges, is really important to me. In the daily reflections, a one-page-a-day book, it says step 1, so it's going back to the beginning, which I like. I use step 1 every day. And it says, when I was drinking, all I could ever think about was I, or me. Such painful obsession of self, such soul sickness, such spiritual selfishness bound me to the bottle for more than half my life. Certainly for me that was true. The journey to find God and to do His will one day at a time began with the first word of the first step, we. There was power in numbers, there was strength in numbers, there was safety in numbers, and for an alcoholic like me, there was a life in numbers. If I had tried to recover alone, I probably would have died. With God and another alcoholic, I have divine purpose in my life. I shall have become a channel for God's healing love. And so if God is truth, God is love, I think I'm on the right path. No, I don't think. I feel. Thinking got me to drinking and kept me there, and feelings and emotions and knowing where I am with them has kept me sober, which is rather remarkable for me. As Bill sees it for today, co-founder of AA, and a collection of thoughts which have come across 40 years of sobriety, I guess, or more. I don't know how long he was sober for. I'm not a follower in that sense. Page 109, freedom through acceptance. We admitted we couldn't lick alcohol with our remaining resources, and so we accepted the further fact that dependence upon a higher power, if only our AA group, and I have a lot of AA groups I go to, so I'm very reliant, could do this hitherto impossible job. The moment we were able to accept these facts fully, our release from the alcohol compulsion had begun. For most of us, this pair of acceptances had required a lot of exertion to achieve. Our whole treasured philosophy of self-sufficiency had to be cast aside. This had not been done with sheer willpower. It came instead as a result of developing the willingness to accept these new facts of living, that we are powerless over alcohol and life would get unmanageable if we went back for it. And we neither ran nor fought, but accept we did, and then we began to be free. So acceptance in knowing our situation in recovery, staying in recovery one day at a time, and then the acceptance prayer for me, serenity. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, that I'm an alcoholic. Courage to change the things I can, that is personally having choices with other people in the day. And the wisdom to know the difference is something I can only learn just for today and hopefully another day.